Today you're going to be graphing absolute value functions. I want you to be able to not only graph an absolute value function, but also identify the vertex of an absolute value function. So an absolute value function is a function whose rule contains an absolute value expression. Now its parent, this should say its parent function is represented by f of x equals the absolute value of x. The shape of an absolute value function is a V-shaped graph. So over to the side here, I'd like you to write absolute value, and you write value, put these little arrowheads here, and we're going to put a little vertex right there for the absolute value, and which is actually the first thing that you need to identify when you're graphing an absolute value function. So let's just draw the parent function. We talked a lot about parent functions in chapter 1, and parent functions need to go through the origin. So there's our absolute value parent function. So f of x, again, equals the absolute value of x. Now we're going to transform the graph of the parent function, and we've done that right here. So this is, we've added a +2 inside the absolute value and a -1 outside the absolute value. So let's just fill this in here. Identify and graph the vertex. Well, the parent function vertex is at 0, 0. So we need to say how that vertex is going to move if we add 2 inside the absolute value. Now we don't have parentheses here, but you can kind of think of it the same way. This is a horizontal house, so x is going to be affected. And because it's a horizontal house, we see a 2, but we think -2. So the x-coordinate of vertex is going to be at -2. And then we go outside here, not in the horizontal house, so that makes it vertical. And with vertical, what you see is what you get. So if it says subtract 1, it's going to go down 1. So here's our vertex at -2, -1. So let's go ahead and graph that at -2, -1. The next step says to find 2 points to the left of the vertex and 2 points to the right of the vertex. So I usually go 1 unit away and then another unit away. So we're going to make that a -3 and a -4. So -3 here, -4 here. And then we're going to go on this side and make that -1 and 0. Now we're going to substitute these values into here. So -4 plus 2 is a -2. We'll just write that down. So absolute value of -2 is 2, -1 is 1. Actually, I'll write it down next to the side here. So now we're going to put the absolute value of -3 plus 2 minus 1. So that's going to be -1. Absolute value turns it to 1. And then -1 will give us 0. All right, now we're going to go down to the -1. And absolute value of -1 plus 2 minus 1. So that's going to be 1. And the absolute value of 1 is just 1. Subtract 1 is 0. And then we're going to put 0 inside. So 0 plus 2, absolute value, -1. That's just going to be 2 minus 1, which is 1. Okay, now we can graph all of those points. So -4, 1 would be here. -3, 0 is here. And then we have -1, 0, and 0, 1. And now we can connect those points. And make sure you go all the way across your graph, and make sure you put the arrowheads there. Okay, now you have one question to try.